Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. I am Simply Syrup, and today I have an informational video for you. 10 tips to help you play better in Warlander. Now, while I may not be the absolute best Warlander player myself, I did spend a lot of time speaking with the community and beta players to find the best tips to bring to you today. So just take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. There will undoubtedly be some higher authorities than me who will be coming out with some great videos very soon to help you out. But until then, maybe this will get you over that first beginner hump. As always, please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But before I take up any more of your time with this introduction, let's get into it. For tip number 1 today, we're going to be going with something a little bit advanced, and that is going to be you don't always have to push. In the current state of Warlander, with the game being so new, everyone has the great idea to rush as fast as they can right down the center of the map, regardless of roles or tactics. And as a smart player who is watching this video, you now know not to do that. But since we can expect this every game, our first tip is going to be you don't always have to push, because most of the time you can actually sit back in lane and allow all of these new players to continuously rush at you, and they will continuously come one by one up to your doorstep, and they will keep doing it over and over and over again, allowing you to really get some free and easy kills. So for tip number 1 today, I just wanted to encourage you to take your foot off of the gas pedal and do a little bit of waiting and just see how it works out for you. I think it'll pay out in dividends. For tip number 2 today, we are going to be going with the most important function of the game, and some of you may know it very well already, but tip number 2 is going to be use your mini-map. I'm sure many of you have played Call of Duty in the past, and you know how important UAVs are for the team's success. Well, in Warlander, there is a permanent UAV on. You can always see every single last character on the map at all times. This is something that we don't normally see in MOBAs or in games in general really, but it really opens up a great opportunity to sit and watch the mini-map and know what's coming to you before you even see it on your screen. I believe someone once wise said that knowing is half the battle. Well, in Warlander, you can get half the battle done by just simply checking the mini-map, and this is something that is so crucial to the game. I would say that most of your time spent in a match will actually be checking the mini-map. If you are not actively in combat, then your eyes should be darting back and forth to the mini-map continuously, over and over and over again, to get a better idea of what's coming at you and what's happening on the map. If you really are interested in getting better at Warlander, then there's no doubt in my mind you have to spend more time watching the mini-map than what you're currently doing. And just a quick note here before we wrap up with tip number 2, you can actually hide yourself from the mini-map with the fog skill. But if you're watching this video, you don't really have to worry about that happening to you. No one is going to be lying in wait. And tip number 3 is actually going to be a few tips and tricks rolled up into one. The name of the game in Warlander is pretty much acquiring stars so you can get your better characters out, and acquiring those stars faster than your competition does. So for tip number 3, we're going to go with get stars early. And some of you may be asking yourselves, simply how do we get stars early? Or I'm about to tell you. Number 1 is you're going to want to build siege equipment as soon as the game starts. Even though you may be on the assault team and building siege equipment isn't actually your role, it appears to be the game is so new that no one wants to build anyway, so your teammates will be very lucky to have you if you help them build. Although if you are on the assault team, another great way to get stars is to go ahead and capture the beginning towers. These will of course be the towers closest to your keep, the ones that you really need to hold on to all game, but we may touch on this a little bit later. But anyway, so you can build siege equipment to start off the game, you can rush out and take the beginning towers. And number 3, you can always move or build siege equipment in the game. These are undoubtedly the best way to gain stars. And for one bonus tip today, and probably the most important piece of information I'm going to give you, the biggest star bonuses actually come from doing things that are assigned to your role before the game starts. You can see a directives or objectives list that will tell you exactly what you're supposed to accomplish during the game, and getting these done will prove to give a giant boost to your star rating. And it's not just these objectives, there are a few more that aren't shown. For instance, if you're playing as a specialist class, I believe one of your objectives is to fire the catapult 15 times. But what is not listed is that if you're at the catapult and you get a kill, you will get a bonus to your star power from helping to defend the catapult. And we can't go into every way to get stars in this video, but those 4 ways should be very helpful. And remember, you have to get them early. The earlier you rank up, the better you will do in the game, and there is no way around that. Getting stars is the name of the game in Warlander. And for tip number 4 today, we are going to keep it general, and this one will mostly be for new players to the game, which most of you are. And that is going to be play your role. And I know it sounds obvious, and maybe some of you think I should not include this in this video, but the truth is that most people in the game right now are completely disregarding whatever role they are given, and they are rushing straight down the middle of the map every single game. Regardless of this, if you want to give your team the best chance at winning, you have to play the role that you are assigned at the beginning of the game. Now, keep in mind that this does limit you as a player. In Warlander, as a single individual, you cannot really turn the tide of war and win the game for your team, although it may seem like that in certain plays or instances where just you make it through and touch the core and that's why you win. But the truth is, as with many sports, it's always a team effort. And generally, what your team needs you to do is to play the role that you are assigned. There is, of course, the Kingsguard defender role, there is the assault role where you go on the attack, and the special forces role where you do stuff like take over the catapult or use siege equipment. And if this video does get it all, I'm having so much fun playing Warlander that I will probably make a video on each role and how you're supposed to play it according to the pros of the game. But for right now, we'll keep it simple. Just play the objectives that are given to you and do what makes sense for your role. Kingsguard, defend the castle. Assault, go for the core. And special forces, you're kind of a jack of all trades. Take over the key points of the map. And for tip number 5 today, I'm going to be giving you guys a tip on how to better manage large combat situations, and that is going to be key in on the stragglers. Don't waste your time firing into the big mob of people unless you are using a special skill like the barrage. Instead, look for the enemies that have broken off from their group and focus in on them. These are, of course, normally the newer players who push through the lines too early or who get separated off the flanks on the sides of the group. You kind of need to imagine yourself like a lion hunting a gazelle. Pick out the easiest target and go for that easy target first. Just get something to eat, fuel yourself, and you can come back for the bigger, healthier gazelles later. And while we're on the topic of taking out the weakest opponents, the opponents that have splintered off from the group, I will give you a bonus tip, and that is the other side of that. Do not be the first person to charge through the line. When the gate opens, don't be standing right in the middle of the gate. Don't be that person. We can expect for the next couple of weeks for there to be plenty of meat shields who will happily try to burst through the line for you and make that heroic charge. It does not have to be you. And I'm not implying that you should stand in a little circle with your group. There are problems to that as well. But for the most part, you're going to want to stay around your people and not be the one who's getting singled out. And for tip number 6 today, we're going to discuss a little bit about building your characters. And we of course don't have time to go into every build for every different class, but the main points are to make sure that you're using your entire character point allowance when possible. Generally speaking, the game does do a very good job when it comes to character points. The more character points you have, the more power you will have in game. And additionally, I do think it makes sense to spread equipment out over all of your different characters. I'm sure there may be some debate on that, and I'll leave it up to you to decide, but I think it's more beneficial to spread equipment out instead of having one powerful character and the rest not have anything on at all. But one surefire way to change your game is you need to understand that your 1-star character will be the character that gets deployed more than any other builds in the game. And knowing that, you also need to understand that you'll play with your 2-star more than you play with your 3-star. So I know it's very tempting to equip all of your best equipment on one character, normally the highest star character you have, but in truth, it may make more sense to spread your equipment out and focus in on the lower characters opposed to the higher ones. And for tip number 7, I actually just wanted to briefly discuss some things that you may not know about the game. And on the off chance that someone is actually watching this video, I wanted to challenge my viewers to add something that I did not include here, and this should be something that others may not know about the game that you noticed early on. So one thing that it took me a little while to figure out is that you can actually sell your old equipment for a little bit of silver, and you can use this silver to specifically buy other pieces of equipment that you need in the loadout store. And for number 2, whenever it comes to gaining stars building siege equipment, you actually gain more stars if you build the siege equipment by yourself opposed to having your teammates help you. Additionally, that little red dot has to stay in the circle. That is a skill check. I did not understand that when I first started playing the game, and now you don't have to make the same mistake I did. And our last thing that you may not know is attacks to the back or head do crit damage. For tip number 8, we are going to be talking about character leveling, and this one is going to be a little bit interesting because I'm not sure if I agree with it, but it is something that some of the higher ranked players in the game passed on to me, so I will include it in this video, although I'm not sure if it has my official stamp of endorsement. But when it comes to leveling up a character, if you want to level that character up as quickly as possible, it actually makes the most sense to leave that character untitled. And like we discussed earlier, this is of course due to the fact that your no titled characters will be deployed in battle more often than any other character you have in your deck. So if you're looking to level up your character as fast as possible, it may make the most sense to leave them as a level 1 and continuously play with them until they hit whichever desired level you're looking for. For our last 2 tips today, tips number 9 and 10, I'm going to keep things super general because I can't give you guys all of the good information I have in my very first Warlander video. But if you are really serious about getting good at the game, then tip number 9 is going to help you out a little bit. And that is play as much as you can. And this is obviously true for any game because the more time you spend playing, you'll just naturally get better at the game. But it is especially true for Warlander because after every game you get new gear. And since this gear carries over game to game, it is one of the most important features there are in Warlander, and it appears to be that the only way to get gear and silver is to play the game. The matches are only 15 minutes, and then you'll get 3 to like 7 different pieces of new gear. So generally speaking, the best way to get good at the game is to just get in and play it. It may not seem like it on the surface, but Warlander is definitely a grind, and you would do really well to remember that moving forward or before you start playing Warlander seriously. And for our 10th and final tip today, what I think may be the most important one we discussed, although it actually won't help you get better at the game. Tip number 10 is going to be try and make some friends. Use the things that are given to us, things like Discord, to find other players who are willing to play with you and go out and play with them. This will help out in so many ways. For one, coordination is key in Warlander. If you get your group on the same page, you'll have a much better chance at winning. And for two, playing with other people, it's always good to know that someone has your back. You guys can divide up classes. Someone can play as a squire, someone can play as a cleric, someone can play as a wizard, and you have all the bases covered. And finally, playing with other people will allow you to open yourself up to a little bit of criticism. We are all doing things wrong in the game, and the best way to discover that is to play with a few friends and ask them for help. But always remember, the most important thing in any game is that you are enjoying yourself. So if you didn't like any of the tips in this video, feel free to completely ignore them. As long as you are having fun in the game, you are winning. And that's about all the time we have for today's video, but I really hope you enjoyed it. 10 tips in Warlander to help improve your game. For those of you who have made it this far in the video, I just wanted to give a big thank you before I sign off and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel, because we have lots more content slated to be released very soon, and you're going to want to be there for that. So until next time, this is Simply Syrup signing off.